Welcome to the Daily Podcast. My name is Michelle Sinclair. This is the Real Healing Institute show. Okay, we're going to start with the Christ letters. If you have the book, page 281. The very worst thing you can do to promote discord is to tell a person that they shouldn't feel a certain way or that they do not mean what they are saying. These two things are a gross violation of the dignity and respect due to the other, and you have rejected the human reality of the other person. You may question a person, do you really mean what you're saying? And if the answer is yes, then it must be accepted and the discussion should continue from that point. Never ignore what another person is trying to tell you because you do not want to face up to what is being said. This is cowardice, and it gives points to your ego. Be brave and listen, with both ears open to receive truth behind the words. You must accept the reality of a person, whether you agree with it or not, even if a facet causes you shock or displeasure. Remember, you do not know the full circumstances out of which that human consciousness has grown into its present form. And if you judge, criticize, or condemn in any way, you have erected a barrier between yourself and that person which will not be removed. No matter how much you may wish to overlook everything negative in him or become friends in the future. Unknowingly, what you reject in him will remain in your consciousness as a foundation for future discords, which will build up and eventually outweigh the affection. Unwittingly, you will say things in the future reflecting your underlying secret mistrust or displeasure. Instead of accepting his weaknesses with love and helping him deal with and overcome them, you will put him on his guard against you, and he will never fully trust you. Your ego and his ego will have a secret battle which neither of you will be aware of consciously. Love could turn to hate. Remember, your life is a state of consciousness in which your thoughts and feelings are deposited as in a safety box. Let acceptance and caring be the steel of which the box is made. When you have an encounter with someone to whom you are drawn, if only in friendship, and you discover that there are elements of his past which are contrary to your principles, you have the option to remain in contact with him, fully accepting his past and possibly, in the future, situations pointing out the characteristic logically and lovingly and helping him grow. Or if this is impossible, promptly removing yourself from the situation until you can see his problems from the perspective of loving acceptance inspired by divine consciousness, and you find him receptive to your principles. You must never accuse a person of acting out of an ego impulse. All human beings are ego-driven to a greater or lesser extent. Never take a stance which will humiliate another. When I was on earth, I urged people to forgive and to abstain from judgment and criticism and condemnation. A time will come in your spiritual development when you will awaken to the enormous gift that you have in your head, the gift of creative, intelligent thinking, and you will also become aware of the enormous responsibility you bear towards the way that you use it. Now, I talk about this because there has been the idea of conflict that has come up a lot lately with people that I'm working with, and that they're having conflict with other people, and it's like, what is the right way to navigate this? I know we've had discussions about conflict before, and you know how it's really beneficial if you give this person 5 minutes and you don't say anything, even if they don't use the whole 5 minutes, but then they can talk about, hey, this is how I feel, and you can truly listen and not just listen to respond, but listen and try to understand. And then, you get your 5 minutes and you can say whatever it is that you need to say, and then that person can respect you and they can listen. But when we are operating out of a place of ego where we won't even hear somebody else saying this, saying, hey, that hurt my feelings. No, it didn't. No, that didn't hurt your feelings. As soon as something like this happens, it has been the ego that has taken over. And there will be no good, no good, that will come from a conversation like that, because it then is no longer a conversation. It is now a conflict. So very often, if somebody is accusing somebody of something else, and it's very upsetting to that person, it will be, and they feel the need to get defensive or even angry, like, I need to defend myself, this is not right. There very often will be some type of truth that is in it. Now, conversely, sometimes people may just make up a complete and blatant lie and begin to spread that, and I could see how that would be very upsetting. But how you can manage that is, I want you to think about your life, and has there ever been a time when you, knowingly or unknowingly, maybe said something about somebody else that was also not true and could have hurt them in that very same way? Sometimes we will search, we'll say, no, well, absolutely no, that didn't happen, no. And people will tell me this, if they're working with me. And I say, okay. And then once we go and we take ourselves into a session, if this happens to be a thing, which, it's only rarely a thing that something like this might come up, we will go back and we will check in the subconscious mind. And I have to tell you, from every time that we have gone back and checked in the subconscious mind, we have achieved a 100% rate of absolutely that or something similar that is now happening, you had done in the past. That person had done in the past, and it has now come back to roost. And now Jesus talks about this. He gives a story and he says, now if your neighbor came to you and he said, I need you to walk with me, 3 miles, what would you do if you were in the middle of something and your neighbor showed up? And so, he's given his talk, and one of the men pipes up and he says, well, I would tell him I'm not going with him, that I was busy, and go find someone else. He goes, okay, that's fair. He said, and what would happen if later down the line you needed your neighbor's help and you went to him and he said, no, go and find someone else, I'm busy? And he goes, I don't know. And someone in the crowd said, he would be angry, he would swear at him. And Jesus said, yes, you have answered rightly. Now, how many times has something come back and you have long forgotten that it began with you? Maybe not with that particular person, that's usually not how it goes. But if you were to truly examine your mind, you could go back and you could see, I see, this was because I thought that or said that or did that. Now what happens is that you, right now, you're emitting a vibration, even as you're listening to this right now. And so if that vibration happened to contain fear that was in it, which very often it does, this is most of the people that I work with, if not all, the people that I work with will come, and there will be some element of fear that is within them. So let's say you had a fear of failure, a fear of abandonment, a fear that there's all kinds of things. Or maybe you're presenting as depression or anxiety. Well, there's 1,000,000% fear that's in that, and if we dig in real deep, it'll be something different for everybody. Maybe there's a fear that I'm actually not lovable. Maybe there's a fear that I'm actually really not good enough. And I say that these are fears because they are, but they could just be labeled as a belief of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I fail all the time. These are things that are attached to that energy, that frequency of fear. And when we believe in these things, meaning we think about them, and we think about them in a certain way that invokes fear in us, right? Some people, they get in a mental loop, or they ruminate about things. Some people worry about things all day long. My grandpa, who has passed away many years ago now, wonderful man, that man was he could not apologize enough. He had such extreme worry that I couldn't even actually work with him, because he had so much religious fear. and all the kinds of things. He was even afraid of helping his own self because he had so much fear that was in him. And then what happened was this fear really overtook his life. And so he was in a constant state of mental anguish because of this fear that was here. He'd come into your house and he'd be like, oh, sorry, I haven't done enough to help you while I'm here. And he couldn't even sit down and take off his jacket because he thought, oh, we got to get up and go. He went down to go visit my sister, and she lived in another country. And he basically couldn't, rest or sleep the whole time because he was so afraid he was going to miss his flight home. That wasn't for like a whole week or 10 days or however long it was that he was down visiting. So I give you that example to tell you that, if we allow certain frequencies, meaning certain thoughts, thought loops, mental anguishes to take over, what has happened here is when you are in a fear-based energy, you are in the energy, the frequency of hell. End of story. You're not living in heaven when you're living in fear, not even close. You're living in hell, and because your consciousness is your home. It's your home. Wherever you are right now, that's your home. It doesn't matter if you're in traffic, it doesn't matter if you're wherever you are, it doesn't matter. It's your home. Your home. Right now in your consciousness, in your head. And it can either be a wonderful home, a beautiful home, a heavenly home, a wonderful place to live, or it can be terrifying. It can be horrid. It can be full of fears. And when you allow yourself to be in those frequencies of fears and you don't do anything about it, they will run and they will rule your life, and it will cause you all kinds of grief. And when we have not healed ourselves, a person may try to start a conflict with us, or they may say something about us that we do not like. And instead of listening, and instead of listening to it with a loving ear and from a place of divine alignment, if we listen to that thing that this person has told us from a place of fear of what if they're right, or what if this happens, or what if that happens, and we respond in anger or fear to this conflict that someone is trying to bring us, what have we accomplished by doing this? Nothing good. Nobody wins. First of all, there will not be a satisfying resolution on either side. Because if someone's coming to you with a problem, it's because they've got a problem with something. And they're coming to you to try to address it. Or if you go to somebody with a problem and they immediately reject it, or they won't listen, what is being accomplished? Absolutely nothing. So you need to have two willing parties that are willing to set aside their egos and truly just listen with divine love to what the other person has to say. Then they can sit there, they can think about it, they can decide what it is that they, need to say, or what needs to be done in return. But if we allow the fear-based energies to take over, then we have allowed hell to enter our conversation. And no good can come from this. I'm going to be straight and direct with you. If you allow love to come into the conversation, it's going to go real good for you. And if you end up with someone who just rejects every loving, wonderful thing that you have to say, or that they think that you're trying to be some high and mighty thing above them, then reassure them, no, I'm not. I'm trying to come up with a resolution that's going to be the best for both of us. And I love you, and I do not want to have conflict with you. It hurts me to have conflict. This is why I want to make things better. And when you come at this with a loving point of view, not only will you end up working with this person or being able to, accomplish and achieve things with them, but you will have mastered part of yourself that you previously hadn't. You will have mastered a part of your ego that up until that point was probably running the show. And every time that you are able to rid yourself of a little ego drive, you allow your soul more breathing space and room for more active control of your personality. And you also rise in consciousness frequencies of vibration, and you feel a degree lighter within yourself. You've accomplished many good and wonderful things just by setting aside your ego drive and responding out of a place of love. Now, what has happened to bring something like this into your life? Let's say that you're working with somebody and they are not having it. They're not having it at all. Well, and no matter what you say, you're gaining no headway. Then the only thing that you can do is laugh and walk away. Literally laugh and walk away. I had to do this one time. This is several years ago. I was dealing with a woman who was obviously having a bad day on the phone, and we needed something done in town. We, owned a building and needed to have some work done around it, but needed the town to help us out. And so I called, and the woman that I was speaking to was beyond unreasonable. And I'm me, man. Like, I'm just being chill and like, hey, could we possibly, do this thing? And I got like snapped back on, and I'm like, okay, should I maybe have somebody else call you and deal with this? Or like, I don't know what's really going on. And, kept getting snapped at, and, I'm laughing about it now. But I wasn't laughing during our conversation. I was, just being very calm and very whatever, but obviously this lady was having a bad day. So by the end of the conversation, I actually just started laughing out loud because I couldn't even take it for another second, and I just started laughing and said, okay, I'm just gonna have somebody else call you back, thank you. And I hung up the phone. Now, what ended up happening with this situation was, obviously this person was not expecting that. She was hoping for me to snap back on her, which, she didn't get from me. And so then when you get a response back like I gave, it made her think. It made her contemplate for a while, because I later then got an apology from her through the person who called her afterwards. So I'm here to tell you, I've tried out that technique of conceding defeat and laughing and going on your merry way, and I gotta tell you, the results were fabulous. Was I annoyed and irritated with this woman when I got off the phone? 100 billion% yes. I wanted to get her fired. Did I? No. But I wanted to. And me just walking away and leaving that conversation, I was like, you know what? There's nothing that can come back on me. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't know how this has happened. But it resulted how it resulted. And it's funny now, because back then I didn't read the Christ letters. I hadn't even discovered it yet. And that is actually the actual solution that Jesus says to do. When you can't reason with somebody, when they will not hear what it is that you're saying, the only thing you can do is concede defeat, laugh, and walk away. So if this is the case, and your ego has been running your life, or you're dealing with someone and the ego is really running their life, and so you're having to deal with this, somebody who's constantly, defending themselves, or, getting up in arms when you're just, having a normal conversation, or whatever it happens to be that you've been dealing with, or that you have within the past. When you can look at it from a place of love, from a place of divine love, of, okay, obviously this person has gone through something that is making them behave in this way right now. But that ain't my thing, and I'm not going to make it any worse for this person. I'm going to try to make it better for this person. And if they want to receive that, then they will, and they can. And if they don't, not your circus, not your monkeys, man. And you can just walk away. And then you can bring yourself back into center alignment, and you can be thankful that you were given the opportunity to master a part of yourself, to discover this self-mastery. And this is a lifelong project. You are a lifelong project. As long as you're home, you'll be working to master yourself, and you're home right now. And as long as you continue to evolve and to find ways that you can master yourself, you can begin to look at every little situation that you have as something that is good, something that is wonderful. For example, today, when I'm trying to get a whole bunch of, American paperwork done. And at every little step that I go, you go somewhere and they're like, hey, we need this paper. And it's like, okay, got to go over to this place now. Hey, well, we need this paper. And I'm like, well, I couldn't get that paper because they wouldn't give me the thing because I said I had to come here to get the paper. And they're like, no, we can't do that. And it's just one thing after the other. Well, what happens today? Well, my mom really likes to laminate everything. Everything. And so she laminated, without me knowing, like, hey, this is not, you can't do this. My social security card. So I go, I'm like, finally, I got all my paperwork in order. And I go into the place and they're like, oh yeah, we know we can't accept this. I'm like, what do you mean you can't accept it? Yeah, so they couldn't accept that. So I was like beyond annoyed because I've gone to I don't know how many different places and it takes a lot to get me, but I was got. They done and got me today when it was, how many attempts now, and I'm like, I got all my things, and it was like, oh, I don't got all my things. Son of a. So anyways, I'm annoyed, but I had been wanting to go home and visit my mom and my sister. I hadn't been there in a while and go see some of my friends. And so I realized the only solution that I have is to actually go back and go and get the things that I need from the place that I used to live in. And so now I get to go and I get to go do that. So rather than me being extremely annoyed because I knew this is for me, even while I was annoyed, I was like, well, I know that this is happening for me. I don't know why, and I don't know exactly why yet, but it has now provided me the opportunity to go and visit with family, which was a trip that I was wanting to take anyways. And it was even a trip I was planning on taking perhaps this weekend anyways. So it all kind of panned out in a way. So I say that to say this. When something happens and it's just infuriating or something is going on, there is always a higher purpose behind it. Always, always, always. And you don't necessarily or usually ever know what that is until you find out what that is, however long later. And you won't know a minute before you know it, and you won't know a minute afterwards. You're going to know exactly on the minute that you're supposed to know, and you'll be like, this is why that thing happened. Okay, cool, I get it. So I say that to say this. My ego honestly wanted to punch out every single person that I had to interact with when they wouldn't just look at me. No, clearly I'm not lying. This is obviously my card. Like, can't you just look it up? Can't we use these other 7 documents that I have here? We can't do that? No, we can't do that. Okay. But my ego wanted to get it done and get it done now through force, right? Like, let me speak to your manager. But obviously that wasn't going to do a second of good. Not going to do a second of good in that situation. But you want to force things sometime. Now, anytime that you feel the need that you need to force something, this is a sign from the divine. It ain't the thing. It's not the thing. It's not supposed to happen in this way, because you should not have to force anything. What is meant for you will flow easily and effortlessly to you when you remain open and you don't block anything off from coming to you. So even something as simple, and we're in the States here, as simple as paperwork can be an opportunity for self-mastery. And yes, you can get annoyed and you can get frustrated at things, but when you can take a moment and you can breathe and you cannot let your ego get in the way, and you can take this as an opportunity for mastery, to master yourself, then you can view it in a whole nother light. You can literally look at it as a game, as a challenge. Okay, this is providing me numerous opportunities for every time I walk into a post office. It's an opportunity for self-mastery. But you know what? I gotta say, you guys got some real sweet postal workers down here. We do in Canada too. They're like the friendliest people in this planet. They just are. They've all had a smile on their face. They're like hilarious. I'm like, everybody here is amazing. Why can't you guys just do the things for me? Anyways, every chance, every opportunity that you have is a chance for mastery. So let's say that you have conflict with somebody, like we started out here. What can you do to master yourself? And once you have mastered this piece of yourself, it's done. You got her mastered. You got it done, because if something like this happens again in the future, which more than likely it will not, because you will have learned the only reason things present themselves to us is because we either created it through our thought, through our belief, through our word, through our action, or through something that we did in the past, something that we feared happening, or something that we have done that has now returned and come back to us. But once we learn these things of like, hey, I need to master myself, that even if they don't want to give me whatever certain paperwork, it doesn't matter. It's going to be fine, because the divine loves me so much that there must be a reason that I'm supposed to go and do it in this other place. Well, that's just fine. I'll go do it in that other place then. And this way I'll get to see my family. This way I'll get to go visit my friends. And I'll get an opportunity this weekend that I would not have got had I got that paperwork done where I'm living at now. And it's all perspective, just like that angel that came into my circle the other night, the one with all the eyes. That's good. Like, look it up, because it's creepy, weird looking, and I never understood it before. And I thought, oh, that's not angelic at all. That thing looks creepy and maybe even evil or new agey and real weird. But this angel that's covered head to toe, doesn't look like a dude. It looks like a thing with wings on it that's just completely covered in eyes, is the angel that gives you the perspective that you need. Which eye do you need to look out of so that you can see this thing more clearly? Because everything is working for you, always, 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 always. And so which eye do you need to look out of so that you can see that? So I look through the eye of, okay, well, this is giving me the opportunity to go and see some family. Excellent. Or I could take it as, oh, I'm so annoyed, I want to go and punch out that person and whoever made these rules and write a letter and do the things and do all this stuff. But what good is that going to do? That's going to create an internal hell within me. It's going to have a ripple effect that's going to come back and harm me in some way. Whatever harm I'm doing to these other people is going to come back on me, and I don't want that. Or I can look through this beautiful angel eye and I can see this as an opportunity for, oh, what a lovely thing. And you know what? I bet when I go to the Social Security office, the people working in there are going to be fabulous, because they always are. The last guy that I had to deal with when I was back in Joplin looked just like Santa Claus, and he acted like him too. It might have even been him. What a wonderful man. And he actually made my day even better just by talking to him. So we always have these opportunities in our life to look at things through a beautiful lens of heavenly goodness, or through a lens of fear and hell. And the choice is up to you. Anyways, that's what I have for you guys here today. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. It's so wonderful. I love hearing your messages. I just love every time that you guys comment on one of these videos. It's so nice to hear from you guys. Anyways, thank you guys for all your support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.